How do everybody and welcome back. I think it's safe to say that most people have seen the radical changes that have been happening in our media in regards to diversity being pushed not only in the advertisements but also even in things like periodical dramas, where even the most politically correct of people would concede, I believe, that only seeing white faces in those would make sense. Now, a great example of that is being I think it was Channel 5 where they made Anne Boleyn black. Quite strange, and to me, purely political in nature. Obviously, only the producers could ever confirm or deny that. Well, that's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. Well, some interesting stories have come to light, which I personally believe do exemplify why these radical decisions are being made. I will be mostly focusing for this on the BBC, but I'll also briefly mention a few other media stories and even some other industry examples as well, examples from outside of the media industry. I'm only going to briefly touch on them just to show how this is a wider problem, I think, in our whole society. I'll also add links in the descriptions of this video below, so any of you that are interested in looking further into what it is that I'm talking about, you're free to look to peruse that information in a bit more detail in your own time. Now, onto the main event with this. So this is an absolutely horrific example of what diversity at all cost hiring has produced. A senior member of the BBC staff, who is called Dawn Quader, and I believe is the scheduling coordinator for BBC Three, has been found to have engaged in what I personally would describe as dehumanising and possibly genocidal language against Indigenous Britons, white Europeans and Jewish people. Absolutely foul, the sort of language that she's been using. And I do say dehumanising and possibly genocidal, and I'm basing that opinion off UN articles on genocide and the language of genocide, and it's to do with, I believe, what they call it. I think it's like the 8 or the 10 steps to genocide, and part of that is language that is used to dehumanise people. A great example of that actually is people, and I'm not a conservative voter, by the way, but it's like radical Labour voters calling members of the Tory party Tory scum, which is, in my opinion, dehumanising language. Some of the things that have been confirmed to have been posted are calling white people a virus and a mutant invader species, melanin recessive parasites, and that white people have disturbed the natural order of the planet, and that we are a barbaric, bloodthirsty, rapacious, murderous, genocidal, thieving, parasitical, deviant breed. Quite strong words. Quite strong words there indeed. In regards to Jewish people, she's posted things like Jewish people are Nazi parasites that funded the Hollow Hawks. Her words, her phrasing. I believe she also used that in reference to the Rothschild dynasty family, banking dynasty family. That Jewish people aren't truly Jewish, but are instead a synagogue of Satan's cabal, calling themselves Jewish. Now, I do believe that one is inspired by the Black Hebrew Israelites, who are an incredibly radical group of African Americans who claim to be the true descendants of Israel and to be the true Jews of the world. And I do believe that conspiracy that she's referring to there from the Black Hebrew Israelites also explains this next one that she posted, which is that she believes that Israel is attempting to forcibly and permanently sterilise black women without their knowledge or consent. Now that again is a Black Hebrew Israelites talking point. There's no way, in my opinion, that someone will be saying such things, which are so brazenly racist, in such an open manner without feeling confident that they'll get no pushback or any form of negative consequences from this. You know, this is really, really, really obnoxious stuff. She has been putting some of this on alternative accounts, but some of it's been on her LinkedIn as well. But even the alternative Facebook account that she's used isn't like hidden under some crazy pseudonym. It's so obviously her with her own picture, which is on her main Facebook account as well, as for it to not be under any sort of doubt that it is her, or even being difficult to find. So she's basically, I think what she's done is she's created this second account. So she has her BBC compliant account, and then she has a real account, if you will, where she can say things that she doesn't necessarily share with people from the BBC, or that the BBC aren't necessarily linked into directly. But I also think that this kind of thinking as well, with how open and brazen she's done this, that this is going to be quite an industry-wide problem as well. She just felt so confident that she can just post this stuff publicly. And like I said, just getting and that she feels like there will be absolutely zero negative connotations, and if anything, that people are going to agree with her. That is purely my own feeling on this. I can't necessarily prove that at this point in time in a 100% confident enough way, but I do feel that when people are saying those sorts of things out loud and in public, there's going to be a lot of other people that are around them that are agreeing with them, and even encouraging that kind of language and behaviour, especially within the corporation itself. Now this leads me now on to another now ex-BBC staffer, Mary Harper, who was the Africa editor for the World Service. Now she's been found to have been paid as an expert witness for up to 15 Somali criminals to avoid deportation. Now one of these men sexually attacked a deaf teenage girl. There's been about 3 of them in total who are sex attackers. I think 3 of them have been involved in drugs. At least one of them spent over 10 years in prison for gang-related incidences, and she's been paid, as like I say, as an expert witness to come in and try and speak in defence of these people to prevent them from being deported. They, in my opinion, now people like her and Dawn, I do believe that these people hate Britain. I genuinely believe that. I believe that it's endemic through the media, and we see that through various aspects of the media and how various shows are expressed and various opinions are expressed. And I do believe that they're trying to destroy the country via death by 1,000 cuts. And that's what the communists, and I haven't mentioned this in previous videos, that's what communists refer to as salami slicing. And the whole idea is not necessarily to have an incident big enough where somebody can point to it and go, that's it right there. That is what is like somebody trying to say, I don't know, outright call for a revolution with a load of armed people trying to storm into Parliament. That's the point where you can say that is the revolution right there. Rather, what it is doing lots and lots and lots of small things to undermine society. So you can't really point to any one of them and say that's the definitive change right there. That point right there is the change, and it's just constantly chipping away and undermining. And same with the salami slicing. You can't say which is the actual salami slice, which is the one that destroyed the salami, or death by 1,000 cuts. You can't say which was the fatal cut out of all the cuts. It's the cumulative nature of all those cuts that kill the victim. And it's the same with what these people are doing, and I do believe it's very subversive to our society. Now, I did say I'd mention some other examples. I won't go into these into any great detail, but I will share the links below to the news articles around these. But there's also been multiple cases of the BBC having no whites allowed job applications. And they've even tried to defend that position in the past as well. I believe it was in 2016. They tried to talk about how having no whites allowed applications was beneficial. But this type of thing isn't limited to just the media either. So Cheshire Police was successfully sued for blocking the application of a white candidate. He did eventually get the job after going to court on it. I'll share that article below. Now, he was only made aware of this discrimination, if memory serves right, because his dad was a police sergeant, I think. And his dad made him aware that he was actually being discriminated against, and his dad was able to dig through files within the actual police records themselves, something that the average person would not be able to do, and therefore would not be able to access. And now, again, I didn't read the article before doing this video, but if I remember correctly, this kid, when he applied, he was a kid. He had straight A's, I think, in his A levels, and he was the top candidate. But it was because he was white, heterosexual, and male that he didn't get the job originally. Out and out discrimination. There's no excuses for it. There's also been similar occasions with our intelligence agencies where no white males are allowed to apply, only women and minorities. And also the RAF stating that they don't want useless white male pilots. Again, this is something that's completely endemic throughout all of our institutions, and it hasn't just happened in a vacuum. So although we do see these cases as being individual things on their own, I do believe that they are cumulative of a much wider problem within our society that is happening and is incredibly deeply ingrained in all of our institutions, including politicians as well, and politics, because they could that was my beeping, by the way, not your device. But I do think if they wanted to, they could change this overnight, but there isn't the actual will to change it, and they are trying to, and I do believe that it is malice, and I do believe that these people are actually trying to destroy our country for their own warped perverted reasons. A lot of it, like with the first story, it's somebody from a minority community who obviously holds some sort of historical vengeance. She refers to the UK as being the UKKKK as well. So I mean, I don't get why she even lives here. If she hates the country so much, just leave, go move in another country. But then there's also the second story of the editor, the Africa editor, actively trying to keep dangerous people in this country, and we see that time and time again. And there was the Jamaican criminal who was stopped from being deported on a plane, I think 2 weeks ago, by somebody standing up on an airplane. We've seen that multiple times with people preventing the deportation of incredibly dangerous criminals. It's just wild. Some of it, I think, as well, is the dopamine junkies. These people, obviously, when they're doing these things, they get a hit of dopamine in the brain, and it makes them. You can actually see it in their eyes, like you can tell when somebody's getting high on dopamine, like they start getting, they can't control the twitches in the face, and their eyes sort of dilate, all that stuff. So I do think these people are addicted to dopamine as well, and this is a way for them getting high, which is why they push back so hard as well when you challenge them, because it's like somebody taking a drug addict's drugs away. They go crazy, and it's the same with these people. When you challenge them on what gives them their dopamine high, they go wild. You actually see they get that wild look in their eye. They go, they get like that psychopath stare like that. They go crazy. And again, because you're cutting the dopamine in their brain at that point, you're getting rid of that constant dopamine feed that they're craving, because they are, in my opinion, some of them addicted. Not all of them, but some of them are addicted to it. And then there's also like the communists. I believe McCarthy was absolutely right when he said there was Reds under the bed. And I do believe that our institutions are absolutely riddled with communists. Susan Mischie being a great example. I don't know if she still does work for the British government now. I think she may have moved on to the UN, but she was the architect for lockdown, and she was one of the head advisors to the government during lockdown. She's been a card carrying communist for something like 30 years or 40 years, like an actual out and out communist. Working in the highest echelons of quangos that advise the government. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. We're on 12 minutes. I've waffled on long enough. If you found that informative, you enjoyed it or anything like that, please like, subscribe, and do put a comment below. I love hearing back from people. I love reading your replies, and I love whether you agree with me or not. And I do always try to message back to people. Maybe not straight away, but I do try to come back to you and message you. Anyway, thank you. Bye-bye.